Welcome to Bench to Boardroom, where life sciences leaders come for signal, not noise, concise insights, sharp strategy, and actionable ideas shaping biotech, pharma, medtech, and healthcare. We're glad you're here. Today's episode begins with what may sound like an uncomfortable observation. For an industry built on evidence, statistics, and scientific rigor, biopharma doesn't always make decisions rationally. This isn't meant as criticism, it's an observation. Compare our industry with aerospace, or semiconductor manufacturing, or automotive engineering. Those industries routinely build probabilistic decision frameworks into nearly every major investment. Projects advance because cumulative evidence improves the probability of technical and commercial success. In life sciences, however, we occasionally see something different. Scientific enthusiasm overrides commercial reality. Capital follows fashionable modalities. Programs continue long after probabilities have shifted against them. Conversely, highly promising assets are sometimes abandoned because they fall outside prevailing investor narratives. The result? Capital isn't always allocated where probability-adjusted value is highest. And perhaps that's the industry's biggest opportunity, because the probability of success isn't one number, it's an ecosystem. Today I'd like to discuss what I believe that ecosystem looks like. Clinical probability. Most organizations begin with a science, and as they should. But good biology alone rarely predicts commercial success. Clinical development is fundamentally an exercise in reducing uncertainty. Each study asks a question. Each endpoint answers one. And importantly, not all endpoints create equal confidence. History provides multiple examples where therapies demonstrated encouraging biological activity yet failed to secure regulatory approval because primary endpoints, validated clinical outcomes, or pre-specified statistical objectives were not achieved. Sometimes surrogate measures prove insufficient. Sometimes endpoints fail to capture clinically meaningful benefit. Sometimes regulators simply require stronger evidence. The lesson isn't merely to design better trials. It is to begin with the end in mind. What evidence will regulators accept? What evidence will payers reimburse? What evidence will physicians trust? Those are different questions. And increasingly, they should be asked together rather than sequentially. Clinical probability is therefore not just about efficacy. It's about choosing development pathways that maximize the probability of ultimate adoption. Let's talk about regulatory probability. The second component is regulatory clarity. Many executives still think of regulation as the finish line. It isn't. It's a design constraint from day one. Advanced therapies illustrate that perfectly. Cell therapies, gene therapies, other advanced therapy medicinal products, or ATMPs. Scientific innovation has accelerated dramatically. Regulatory science has worked remarkably hard to keep pace. Yet we've also seen withdrawals, delayed approvals, and development programs requiring significant redesign as evidentiary expectations evolved. That doesn't indicate regulatory failure. It reflects scientific complexity. Recent analyses of Europe's evolving joint clinical assessment framework, alongside the maturation of advanced therapy regulation, reinforce a broader point. The regulatory pathway itself increasingly creates competitive advantage. Companies understanding regulatory expectations earliest frequently create value long before approval. Regulatory clarity is therefore not merely about compliance, it's an investment strategy. Which leads me to talk about market probability. Then comes perhaps the least appreciated probability, market probability? Will physicians prescribe? Will patients accept? Will payers reimburse? Will health systems implement? Or will manufacturers supply? These questions often receive less attention than clinical milestones, yet they determine realized value. Far too many business cases still optimize around regulatory approval rather than patient adoption. The voice of the customer should include 4 distinct customers: patients, physicians, payers, and health systems. Ignore one, and commercial probability falls dramatically. And about the capital markets: rational until they aren't. Let's discuss investors. Financial markets are extraordinarily efficient until they aren't. Biopharma has experienced multiple waves of enthusiasm. Gene therapy, cell therapy, RNA therapy, immuno-oncology, radiopharmaceuticals, artificial intelligence, each brought remarkable innovation. Each also produced periods where capital allocation became heavily concentrated, sometimes appropriately, sometimes excessively. Herd behavior exists in every investment market. Life sciences is no exception. During periods of optimism, companies with relatively modest differentiation may receive extraordinary funding. During periods of pessimism, exceptional science may struggle to attract capital. Neither outcome necessarily reflects underlying value. Leadership, therefore, requires distinguishing between investor enthusiasm and probability-adjusted enterprise value. Those are rarely identical. And here's what I call the hidden source of irrationality. Why does this happen? I believe there are 5 recurring reasons. First, nostalgia. We've always developed assets this way. Legacy thinking quietly shapes many strategic decisions. Second, organizational momentum. Once significant investment has occurred, objective reassessment becomes psychologically difficult. Third, scientific optimism. Researchers naturally believe in their programs. That optimism drives innovation. It can also obscure risk. Fourth, incomplete information. Unlike engineering industries, biology rarely offers complete data sets. Every decision occurs under uncertainty. Finally, incentive misalignment. Scientific success, regulatory success, commercial success, shareholder success, patient success. These objectives rarely or generally overlap, but not perfectly. The best organizations intentionally align them. Thinking like other innovation industries. So what can life sciences learn? The world's highest performing innovation industries increasingly evaluate investments holistically: technical feasibility, customer demand, manufacturing readiness, regulatory environment, economic return, scalability, portfolio interaction. Biopharma should do exactly the same. Not because medicines are products like any other. They aren't. Because decision quality improves when uncertainty is evaluated comprehensively rather than functionally. That requires integrated thinking: clinical, regulatory, commercial, market access, manufacturing, finance, working together from the beginning, not passing projects sequentially. Let me offer a final thought. The pharmaceutical industry exists for a remarkable purpose: improving and often saving human lives. Every strategic decision ultimately serves that mission. The companies creating the greatest value over the coming decade will increasingly look beyond isolated probabilities. They will evaluate the complete probability ecosystem: clinical success, regulatory success, commercial success, patient success, and societal success. Because value creation across a portfolio increasingly depends on adopting the same disciplined, evidence-based decision frameworks that have transformed other innovation industries. When done thoughtfully, those approaches don't simply accelerate business growth. They accelerate patient benefit. They improve capital efficiency. They strengthen public trust. And perhaps most importantly, they remind us that commercial success and societal contribution are not competing objectives. In life sciences, at their very best, they're exactly the same thing. Thank you for joining us on Bench to Boardroom. Always selective, always original, always actionable. Until next time.